name's Alistair Cook from Electro in Europe, and today we're going to be talking about alternative financial solutions and cost of ownership. Well, good morning guys. I'm Alistair Cook from Electro in Europe, and today we're going to do a quick talk about the cost of ownership and a little bit of analysis on it, and hopefully change the perception of how you would acquire test and measurement equipment here. So a little bit about Electro. So the largest global rent lease provider specialising in test and measurement equipment. We've been in the business since 1965 with 375 million in assets and 0 debt. So a very cash strong and very colourful company. We have offices across the USA, Canada, Europe, Asia, and we're continually expanding. Some of our recognitions, obviously Forbes most trustworthy companies in 2014, 2009, 2010, and obviously one of the fastest growing companies in 2012. The equipment categories that we look after. So a lot of these, some of you will recognise, the RF and microwave, the general purpose, digital design, wireless, install and maintenance, industrial, and the wireline install and maintenance. And as you can see, the biggest portion of our chart there is obviously the RF and microwave. Our customers. So we work within the aerospace defence, the telecoms, so from the network equipment manufacturers all the way through to install and maintenance companies. We cover the contractors, the consultants, the utility companies as well. And obviously we do the computer manufacturers, the semiconductor market. And our target markets, again, is without any surprise, aerospace defence, semiconductor, electronics, install and industrial. So just as a quick guide, these are some of the offerings that Electro can put towards you. So when you're looking to acquire equipment, instead of just thinking immediately purchase, there is other opportunities out there for you as well. So now we can move on, getting more from your capital budget. So your equipment needs. Well, in the aircraft industry, typically they acquire the aircraft through a leasing agreement. They don't just go out and buy. So they're already thinking that way, they lease and they come to an agreement. The construction industry, however, they have an ever-changing requirement. So at the start of their requirement, they have one need, 6 months later, they're at a next point of their construction. So why would they buy the equipment? They rent it as they need it. So what about your equipment? What about test and measurement? What do you do there? Do you immediately think, we'll buy? So here's how the perception has been changing, and we've all done this in day-to-day life as well. In the past, we bought CDs. You got exactly the tracks that you wanted, but you got a little bit extra and you kept it for a very long time. So you got what you wanted, but you paid for more, maybe necessarily you didn't like some of the tracks on it. Then we streamlined a little bit. Now we can download tracks, so you can actually buy what you're looking for. You still own it for longer, and as things change, you need to buy more. But now we subscribe to the music streaming, so you can get exactly what you want, when you want it, for how long you want it. So as years go on, your tastes in music change, maybe you're in a bad mood one day, you don't know. So now you can actually buy what you need, or at least have access to the resource on what you need. So now we no longer own the resource. We own the right to access the resource. So the imperatives. 2008, I think, was a big shocker for everybody worldwide, the financial meltdown. So companies since then have been looking to reduce their debt, but still continue with what they're looking to do. They need to obviously keep pushing forward. It's the only way they can get business to keep coming in and keep moving. So the capital budgets are now restricted, but from an operational point, the managers, the engineers, they still need equipment. They still need to be able to test. They still need to be able to verify. So now people are looking at more cost-effective ways of procuring that equipment. So, equipment ownership. This is where most people will look at it. And certainly there is 3 main areas with an outside body, which is a 4th. I've got a squeaky floorboard here. So everyone, we all know about the acquisition. You're looking to obtain equipment. You have the implementation and the costs involved. You also have the safe disposal of the equipment. And the outside part of this is obviously you have the management of the entire process from start to finish. So a little bit of an example here, and this is the typical usage. So cost of purchase against the rental, or alternative financial. The purchase, you have the upfront costs. So for example, we have the RTSA sitting here at 27,000. You also have the procurement process, which is actually management and labour time, and the equipment evaluation process. Now, as you can see, on purchase, that is a big upfront cost. And typically, we're using a model here over 4 years. So the typical usage time as well is about 65–70% of the overall time. Now, on rental, the comparison here, as you can see, it greatly increases your productivity here when it comes to evaluating the equipment. Because when you're obtaining the equipment with a big capital outlay at the start, the question is, what happens if you get it wrong? You're then stuck with a box that you don't need anymore. So these are the things you need to obviously be very aware of when you're looking into equipment and alternative sources. So the implementation costs, as you can see here, again, we're still using the same typical model. It's over 4 years. Basically, the rental costs are there, the cost of analysis, and the calibration costs, extended warranties, downtimes have to also be considered when you're actually acquiring the equipment. So basically, as you can see, as we go through the slides, you'll see there is different cost comparisons here. So rental price is obviously a higher cost because there isn't a capital there, it's an operational expenditure. And then of course we have the cost of disposal. Now, this is something where typically people don't think about it during the actual acquisition and implementation process. So again, you have the ethical disposal process, which again, we've worked on labour time and proceeds. And typically when you sell the box, at the end of its shelf life, you will get a nominal value back. It might not even cover the cost of actually going through the process of safe disposal. Now, again, through the rental side, you don't have any problems with that. It's someone else's problem. So, and again, if you look at the total costs there, you'll actually see you've got the total cost is, for example, again, we'll stick with the RTSA, 42,000 on capital against the shelf life of 16,000. So we're typically looking at about a 62% saving. So this is just a quick way of basically putting it out there for you to give you a more visual idea of what it's like. So at the beginning of the time, you have your acquisition cost, and then as you can see, the cost drops down where it's into the implementation mode. We have the calibrations, typically depending on the equipment, it can be 1 or 2 years. We're taking an average here. And through the timeline of the equipment requirements, you also have the upgrade requirements as well. So as your processes change, as your requirements change, as technology changes, these things all have to be taken into consideration as well. So, the sensitivity. This is where rental might not be the best thing for everyone. We're not saying that. It's absolutely, we have to get the process, the thought process in the heads where you have to analyse basically everything. I mean, you're not going to spend 300,000 on a particular test and measurement piece of equipment if you only need it a week. So we have to start thinking about these, the type of equipment, the duration of the equipment requirements, what is your corporate finances like, what is the strategy for your company in the future? Do you know? I mean, is it something that's going to last 12 months? Is it something that's going to last 10 years? And these are all the things that typically come into it as well. And it's how you get your brain thinking about it. We do it all in our day-to-day lives. To reference back, we bought CDs, now we downstream the music. So if we can use that in our day-to-day lives, why aren't we using it within the test and measurement world? but things are changing. It's an evolutionary process where people are recognizing it and they are moving forward. So, the conclusions: equipment purchase is not the only option. Ownership, the meaning of it, is actually changing. We all have restriction in capital budgets. Let's face it, it's been a tough time since 2008. But it's getting better. And there is different options. So you can use more of your operational expenditure to acquire the equipment, and you can still own the equipment at the end. You don't necessarily need to buy and lose all your budget at the beginning. You can spread it. That gives you more opportunity to then turn around and be able to expand your business, expand your projects, or safeguard the people you have in your business. And the cost of ownership is key in helping you. How do you get more out of your capital equipment? So this website here, this is something that Electro designed. It has real-life industry examples, and I would actively encourage anyone to have a look at it. It includes a budget calculator as well, so we've set up the tool. People can utilize it any which way they want, and it can help people understand which might be the best solution for you. And that's it, really. Any questions?
Yeah, since 2008, as you said, 2008 has been a bad year for most people.
Yep.
Have you seen a pattern of your equipment used for rental gone up rather compared to what you'd be selling?
Absolutely. It's typically when the market is strong, there's always a very good, again, like the construction industry, there's always a need for short-term requirements. So there has been a very good base there, particularly within the install base. But certainly since 2008, a lot of the larger organisations out there have definitely decided to keep their capital and use more of their operational expenditure. So whilst they're still getting the equipment and still able to push forward on their projects, they're reducing their overall debt. So absolutely, since 2008, it's been a process that has helped shape people's minds on how to think about obtaining equipment.
I understand most of the companies that do purchase your product or equipment, what's the common factor for those companies? Is there a common reason for why they would go ahead and purchase rather than go rental?
Absolutely. It could be, for example, in the defence industry, they tend to have a 15-year shelf life. So they could obtain the equipment through a period of time, but again, they can't guarantee that equipment will sit within the UK. So typically these guys would buy, and that's more to do with if the equipment goes outside the country, they can't control where it's going. So they would typically buy, but yeah, there's been definitely a big change in the larger organisations, but it's more specific to what their actual needs are rather than a common factor. If it's a short-term project, if it's something they're not 100% sure they can win, then yeah, these are all the factors that come into it, but each company is different and they look at it in a different model.
Cheers.
Are there more questions? Thank you, Mr.
No problem.